Okay, I think that is great.
John Kerry, we can start with you.
Okay. I think last time was a model 7, which is talking regarding dissertation writing. On my part last time, what I picked from it, uh, it was said that it was said that the meaning of dissertation is demonstrate the independent inquiry and contribute to the knowledge practice an original scholarly research report and evidence-based academic documents, and it is follow institution guideline. For example, like OTAMO as a guideline for the writing research and dissertations. This thing you follow it accordingly. Uh, all also there is something that we need to do within the dissertations. Use a table and figures wisely. Like if you need to do all these things, tables and figures, you have to do them correctly so that the supervisor or the reader can understand easily and use the current credit sources. For example, we were been to last time that credit sources should be starting from 2026 up to 2020, 2016 up to 2026. For example, this is maximum of 10 years. This is credit source. But if you say that, okay, 1993, 1994, that is mean that you need to put as a slight quotations. Then you need you also to link every section logically. Like when you start your dissertation from the chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, until you come to conclusion, you have to link them one by one. You don't separate each one to come alone and this one to come alone. Uh, Also, you need also to write from a full proposal. Like when we need to have a dissertation before we do it, we have to come with proposals submitted. That like last time we've been given assignment for 1 up to 20 pages. That one, after you gone through it, the professor gone through it and they approve it. This is where you can come and start your data collections and do your other works, chapter 4, chapter 5, until the end. Then you put your reference. Uh, Also, there is some other thing that was built last time, not to do, like not to do when you are writing the student one. We were told that we do not submit it unedited drafts. Like if this thing was not been edited and not been, don't want to submit it. Also, we don't want to mix dissertation style. Like we come from APA style, bring other that from that side, and bring this one from that side. We've been told only that to focus on APA style. Then also, we do not want to ignore the feedbacks. Like if you submit your proposal and your supervisor told me that, okay, this is okay, but this part you need to do some corrections. You have to do that one also because this is part of the learning and this is need you to have the accurate information and have accurate dissertation that was being followed. Then also do not overclaim the findings. Like if finding was less than what you intend to do, just give them as the way it is. Don't fabricate the finding. Just focus on what you find on the ground and submit as the way it is. Also, do not invent the data. Like if you went to the ground, you need to target 100 people, and when you went on ground, you find only 30. You have to say, okay, my target was 100, but I've managed only to get 30 because of A and B, C, D. This is where you can have a good dissertations. Also, we were been told last time that there is a writing effective introductions. One state purpose and objectives. Like if you need to do that one, you have also to have to state the purpose and objective of your research. We also you need to define the scope and assumption of your research. Also, you need to show the evidence gaps between previous one and the current ones. Also, you also to contextualize the study problems. Then you need also to end with the chapter organizations. By doing all these things, I think on my part, I submit from here, others can take it over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Colleagues, feel free to put up your hand and you give us the recap of what we looked at last week. Yes, Shakira.
Maybe I can talk about the do's and the don'ts, and then how to write an effective introduction. So the do's is the first one, write from an approved proposal. Like if you to write a dissertation, make sure that your proposal was approved by the supervisor that was assigned to you. You not just write a dissertation from an a proposal that you didn't submit for approval. Then use current credible sources. You shouldn't use social media, like you shouldn't use Wikipedia, some newspapers. You should use articles that are published and as current as 10 years. Then link every section logically, like the way John Q has explained. And then the dots, don't plagiarize words. Do not, if you're using published articles, do not copy the same way they wrote theirs. You should try as much as possible not to plagiarize the words that they wrote there and you write yours. Then do not invent data. Don't write something that you think is right, yet it's not right. Then don't ignore feedback. If you submit your dissertation for proof check and they give you feedback about where you need to change, where adjustments need to be made, do not ignore those feedback. You need to make changes and improve your dissertation. Then do not overclaim findings. And then do not mix citation styles. If you're to use APA 7, use that one. Actually, it's the one that is recommended by UTAM. Do not mix citation styles from others, and then you add in APA, then you follow it with another citation style. Use APA 7. Then do not submit unedited drafts. Make sure that the draft is edited and is good for submission. Make sure that you check thoroughly for the mistakes. Let me say the font styles, make sure that it's justified. Make sure that the spelling errors that are there are also removed. Don't submit something that is not edited. Then if we are to write an effective introduction, make sure that you contextualize the study problem. Show that the evidence gap, because if you're to write a dissertation, it means there's a gap that you want to cover. Then state the purpose and objectives. Then define the scope and then the assumptions. Then justify the practical significance. And then end with chapter organization. Every chapter has an introduction. This is what we have to follow if you write an introduction to every chapter. And another thing I have to note is that dissertation is written in past tense. It's not like a proposal. A proposal is written in future tense, but a dissertation has to be written in past tense. That was my submission. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shakira.
Can I say something?
Yes, please, Dorothy, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'll add on what Shakira said. Let's look at the literature review, which is chapter 2. So, the review you'll be making, or the literature review, should combine both ideas. That is, make sure it has to be two-way, rather than just a list of study after study. So you have to compare and contrast. Then also compare different studies or methods and findings against each other. Now, you don't have to look at one scholar only, but what do other scholars say about the same idea that you have? Identify where the scholars disagree and also where the knowledge gap remains, and also then at the end, match it with yours. Are you doing the right thing, or you're doing whatever you're trying to write on here is totally different from whatever other scholars have said? Then look at your different variables, all the concepts that are established in the different theories they are using. Then you also have to prioritize the recent sources, academic sources you have viewed. Look at the peer-reviewed academic sources. Like, it's literature review, and it means that you have to look at the different literatures out there by different scholars. Then also at the end of it all, you have to present your own conceptual framework showing how your studies variables relate with the different scholars, because we all know that when you're doing literature review, it is not you're not the first person doing it on a particular study, unless of course if something is totally unique and has never been researched about. Then I would like also talk about chapter 3, which is the different methodology, or the methodology. Justify. You have to justify why you have chosen that research design, or why this approach fits your study that you're currently going to carry out or you're doing. Then define the population and the sampling techniques that you're going to use. Remember, doctor emphasizing this. And then explain the research instruments that you're going to use, or that have been used, and how their validity is going to be established, or was established. Sorry. Right. You should have in detail your ethical safeguards, like consent. If you're doing a research on, let's say your participants are going to be under 18s or minors, you should have assent forms, and they should be signed by their caregivers. And also, consent, assent, confidentiality are the key. I'll call them the ethical safeguards that any researcher should have at the back of their mind, and should also make sure they are put in play. And also then ensure that the data analysis methods match, or they matched your stated objectives. They don't have to be on a different side. Meaning your work has to flow right from the start. Everything should be coherent. Then also when it comes to your data presentation, that is chapter 4, present your results systematically, objective by objective. Don't skip. Use clear, well-labeled tables and charts. They should be able to show what your work is talking about, or what your research is all about. Then when it comes to reporting statistics, they should be accurate and honest. Don't cook data to make your work look nice, or then when you're using direct quotes to support qualitative findings, make sure they are quoted, because they are not your words. You're using someone else's statements, so you're reporting what the person was saying. They should be in quotes. Then avoid interpreting the data too early. When you make your own conclusions even before you have reviewed everything, like from chapter 1 to the last chapter. Then protect the participants' confidentiality throughout. Don't use names. Don't give any identifying details. Should I continue, or someone else can add on? Okay.
Thank you, Dora.
Please proceed.
You can
continue.
proceed, because I don't see any hands up.
Okay. Then so it's fine. When it comes to discussions, the conclusions, and the recommendations, that's in chapter 5. This should interpret the findings in light of the literature reviewed earlier. So don't make a conclusion and you forget about what you talked about in chapter 2, or what you reviewed. Like I said earlier, everything should be coherent. Then explain where your findings agree or conflict with previous studies. However, you should be able to defend this and give reasons as to why you think it is conflicting. After it's a research, these are your own findings, but don't forget about the other scholars as well. Then you should highlight the study's specific contribution to the knowledge and practice. When you're doing conclusions, they should have evidence, they should not fall on unsupported claims at the end of it all. So what conclusion are you making, and what are you using? Where have you gotten this literature, all this data to draw a given conclusion at the end of it all? So meaning you're supposed to offer realistic or actionable recommendations after the conclusions have been made, because you have gone to the field, you have collected data, you have done all the necessary things you're supposed to do as a researcher. Now, when it comes to doing conclusions, make sure they are supported. Then acknowledge the study's limitations and suggest areas for future research. If someone else wants to carry out the same research and then they are going to review your dissertation, maybe you've also published it. The limitations part should not miss out, so that they're able to also read your work and get a hint of what they're getting into. I would like to talk about some things about the guidelines, the styles, and the different techniques used. Dr. always mentions follow the university's, for example, when it comes to writing, the referencing style, they use APA. That's what we are supposed to use. Then also stick to one citation style consistently throughout. Today, don't like chapter 2, don't use APA. Chapter 3, you're using Harvard style of referencing. It should be consistent, APA all throughout. Then also, another key to note is to use clear formal or academic languages. I know the WhatsApp has the slang, we call it slang. Like writing the word through, instead of writing it THROUGH, someone ends up writing THRU. So we need to be careful when it comes to writing. Also, avoid using emotional tones. Don't put a lot of feelings, especially. There are some topics that are really sensitive. So as you're writing, you're putting your feelings. You're being sympathetic for maybe a respondent. So at the end of it all, most researchers end up missing out the actual concept of what someone is trying to put out there. And then the heading levels and numbering should be consistent. It is important. It makes sure it shows that you're a neat person, you're a neat scholar. And then also proofread carefully when it comes to before you submit your work. For grammar errors, maybe you need to punctuate your work well. Then also, when it comes to reference management software, you need to stick to one. We had a discussion last time. Some people said Zotero is easier than EndNote, or some are saying EndNote is easier. So whichever is easy for someone, for the researchers, I think it's what you're supposed to use. But carefully, to avoid citation errors, stick to one. Then also, yeah, I beg to stop here. Someone else can take over. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. Jesse, you can give your submission.
Thank you so much, Class President. I'm going to speak to Chapter 1, but maybe let me begin with the title, with the preliminary pages. We are told that the preliminary pages of the dissertation, you have to have the title page. Then from the title page, you have the declaration, you have the approval page, you have the table of contents, tables and figures, list of acronyms, and then you have an abstract which should be one page and one paragraph. And in that abstract, you basically answering the 5 W's: why, when, what, and whys. So all these should be numbered using Romans. So then you start with chapter 1. Chapter 1 has introduction. It has a background. Background here, this is like an opening section, an opening section of your proposal, and it establishes the context. It gives the context of your work, why you're doing this work. And it is very important that when you're doing a background, if possible, start from a global perspective. For example, you can look at the global, the entire world. Then you come to a regional. Regional could be, for example, in Africa. Then you can come to East Africa. Then you can narrow it down to the national level. That means at the country level. Then you can go down and narrow it down, probably maybe a district or a certain area in which you're operating. In other words, you're contextualizing, giving a clear background why your study is very, very important. Then the next part is the problem statement. You probably again, of course, what is the exact problem? What is the problem that you're looking at? Then from there, you go to the general purpose or the main objective of the study, which should be basically one statement. And from there, then you come to what we call specific objectives. Now, when you're coming out with specific objectives, you have to make sure they will align with the research questions. They will again align with the hypothesis. They are aligned also to the conceptual framework. So the objectives, whether they are 3 or 4, and we advise that normally we shouldn't go beyond 4 specific objectives. And from those, it's where you come up with your research questions. From research questions, then you have a research hypothesis. You have the conceptual framework, which is looking at the variables, how you'll be playing around with the variables, how they contribute to an independent variables, and then you have dependent and independent variables. And from there, you have significance of the study. Now, significance of the study, what is the purpose? I mean, why is your study very, very important? Why should somebody spend a lot of time looking at your dissertation? Why is it very, very important? It has to be really something very important for you to say maybe.
Hello, Jesse. We've
Sorry,
lost you.
my network went off. Apologies. So then I was still continuing that. I said then the other one is the scope of the study. Now, when you look at the scope of the study, it is it looks at a number of things. One is you can look at the geographical. You can have the context scope. You can have the time scope. In other words, what time are you looking at? Is it from which year to what year? That is the time scope. The context, here you're looking at the again, it is related to the main objective. The context scope is related to your objective of the study. And then, yeah, so basically scope, we're looking at basically 2 or 3 areas: context, geographical scope, and time scope. Then the last part in chapter 1 is operational definitions. So many times we have definitions or operational definitions. You have to go and list them and then mention what is the meaning of a certain term, and then provide that. So that is the chapter 1 of the proposal. I beg to submit, Class President.
Thank you, Jesse. Colleagues, any other person with a submission before I call Doctor to take over? Hello? Yes, Robina, you can submit.
Thank you so much, Dorothy, and thank you, colleagues. Our colleagues have already discussed a lot. I just have simple additions here. When it comes to discussion of the results, there are some instances whereby your findings do not contradict or do not correlate with the current evidence that you have reviewed. So you realize that you have found something new. So in this case, what do? Do you leave it out or do you talk about it? So it's very important that you acknowledge it, because this is something new and it is addition of knowledge to the current evidence. So you state clearly that your findings do not correspond with the existing literature. Then you need to go on also and suggest reasons to why you think you managed to find this, to have these unique findings. And this could be related to the methodology that was used, the characteristics of the sample, the context in which this study was carried out, or the theoretical framework. However, when you're explaining such kind of findings, it's very important that you highlight the contribution that the new knowledge is bringing in. Then also you suggest any further research that might be required in order to explore more on what you have already found out. Then while doing that, you need to remain conscious not to overstate. You do not need to overemphasize that your new finding is something that is definite and it is something that you consider to be correct. So give space for more studies to be done and for more exploration so that the finding comes out clearly. So this is what I wanted to say. I give my submission. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robina. Any other person, if you have something to add on or you want to take us through?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Senkai John.
Yes, I'm going to talk about what should be included in the appendices, because I haven't had anyone putting emphasis on that. I know it is not part of the main body or the main chapters, but it's also something that we don't have to ignore because it's very important. So appendices should also carry some material or supplementary materials that will necessitate the competence of your research. For example, it will show the validity, the replication of your research, if your research is replicable. So some of these materials that you should have in your appendix include the research tools, the tools you used to carry out research. For example, the questionnaires, the surveys, the interview protocols, observational checklists, etc. Then in case of, you may also include some of the raw data the raw data sets that you used. In case, because we know sometimes we need to get permissions from the different entities. You need to attach such approval letters or permission letters, like for example, the research ethics board from the university should give you approval letters for you to carry out the research. Then you can also add or attach the blank participant consent forms. I say blank because if you include the one that has been filled, you are not being ethical. Then permission letters, in case you've used the material that carries some copyright or copyrighted material, you need to get also permission letter. Then in case you use some complex mathematical proofs, you may need the computer code scripts and detailed equipment specification in case you used them. So you may also have had some supplementary tables and figures that are large to be included in the main body because they may be destructive, length to be in the main body. So such large units, we put them in the appendix. Yeah, I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John.
You're welcome.
I think I can call Doctor to take over. Over to you, Doctor.
Doreen, thank you. The problem is that you came late. Because you came late, you never understood the instructions of the presentations today. Can you hear me, Doreen?
Yes, Doctor, I'm getting you.
Yeah, you're supposed to do a recap up to 11. So you have 24 minutes to go. Make everybody participate. There are people in this class who have never mentioned the word. Please engage the people.
Okay, Doctor.
I will start my own recap of Unit 1 up to Unit 7. There is nothing new I'm going to teach. So choose people who do not want to contribute. They are there unless they are going to begin running away. Engage them. Thank you.
Okay, Doctor.
I will take
Audrey,
over from
please.
11.
Okay, that is well noted. Audrey Kamwaka, please take over. Audrey, your voice is very low, like you can increase on the volume. Hello? You sound like you're very far from your device.
Hello, good morning, Doreen.
Good morning, now we are getting you.
Doreen, can you hear me?
Yes, please, now you're clear.
Okay. All right, I know someone has already talked about chapter 5. I'm just going to maybe add a bit. Where after you've done everything up to chapter 4, in chapter 5, you have to interpret the findings, maybe the findings regarding the research methods you've used, maybe the questionnaire, the surveys. So you interpret the findings. After interpreting those findings, you have to compare them with the literature. of course, the literature of those people who have already done the research that you are also carrying about. So you compare if maybe the gap that was mentioned, are your findings intending to capture or fulfill that gap? Then from there, maybe you draw conclusions, you conclude on what you really find into the what you really found into your research. And of course, it must not be interfering with the policies of the institution. And from there, that's when you can make a recommendation of however maybe you've done your research and conclusions. You can recommend on what next steps should be taken so that maybe the gaps can be fulfilled. That's what I had to submit.
Thank you, Audrey. Auma Irene, please say something. Irene Auma. Busobozi Godfrey. Busobozi Godfrey, can you please say something? Busobozi, are you part of the class? Okay. Opini Isaac Rokani.
Good morning, colleague.
Yes, Albert.
Okay, good morning, doctor and colleague. I'm also, hello?
Yes, we are getting you.
Okay, so I'm also want to weigh in terms of recap. One of the recap that I really take into consideration was this one last time when Dr. took a recap on most precisely Unit 6 that has to do with proposal development. That was really interesting to me, and I understood him well that in the proposal development, the first thing we should actually recognize a problem clearly first and has a justification before even planning to write our proposal. And the next thing we should take into consideration the objective alignment in terms of questions that will be mentioned in our proposal development. Then also we should take in note on the literature review, most especially the research gap, of which we want to undertake that research. We should clearly look at the gap in terms of the needs of the people and what the project beneficiary actually want in terms of writing the proposal. Then the next thing, we should also recognize the method that fit that design. It just shouldn't be any method. If we want to use both method or cross-cutting method, or want to use qualitative or quantitative method, we should actually look for the method that best suit the proposal. And the next thing is ethics. We should strongly consider ethics in our data collection exercise, most especially when it comes to getting or responding consent, most especially when it comes to conducting key informal interview, who are those key people that we should meet in terms of collecting the data, and also informing them that their name would not be mentioned in our report or in the report during the data collection or during the research proposal development. And the next thing is that we should take into keen consideration of time and budget And our budget should be realistic. It should not just be, oh, because we want to endeavor in this project or program, so we should arbitrarily just take any amount and send it to the donor. No, the budget should be realistic in terms of activity, and there should be a fixed timeline in terms of that project intervention. So these are things I really captured from a recap, most especially from Unit 6. Thanks.
Thank you, Albert. Before you came in, Irene had something to say. Hello, Irene. Are you ready? Auma, Irene.
Yes.
You're breaking.
Good.
Hello, Irene.
My network just not fair.
Okay,
Yes,
now you're
Doreen.
clear.
Can you hear me now?
Now you're clear. Yes.
On what the research journey entails. And this starts from the topic. Then after the topic, you have to follow with the problem. What needs to be addressed. Then after the problem, you go to the objectives. And the objectives addresses what exactly will be achieved. Then after objectives, go to the literature review that look at what has already been done or what is already known. Then from the literature, you go to methodology, and it will support on how the evidence will be obtained. From the methodology, you go to the data. It looks at what evidence is collected. Then from the data, you go to the findings. The findings really tells us what the results mean. And then lastly, we look at the defense, how the work is justified. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Lisha, you can give your submission. Charles, Lisha.
Yeah, good morning, colleagues, and thank you for the opportunity provided me to make my input. So we also talked about the issues of data quality, and based on that, we were able to look through the data quality assurance module. And so we actually look at 5 different dimensions, and so those dimensions include data validity, reliability, completeness, timeliness, and integrity. So when we actually talked about data validity, we are talking about ensuring that we are actually capturing what we intend to capture. So like take for example, you want to capture or let's say you want to capture children below 5 who have been vaccinated as per your indicator, and you should make sure that you are actually capturing children that below 5. There should be no consideration for children above 5 or children who just turned 5 to say, oh, okay, this child just turned 5 3 days ago, so let's just consider him or her. No, that's a contradiction to what you intend to mention. So we should be very strict on what we intend to measure. Then we also talked about reliability, like I said. So reliability is about ensuring that we have a consistency in what we are collecting across every sector, depending on the data collection tools that we are using. So if we are capturing one indicator across 5 or 6 sectors, we should ensure that the same data collection tool and the same method are all used. That explains reliability. Then completeness. So we should ensure that every required information on the data collection form is filled out. Though not, because there are some on the form that are not mandatory, but every mandatory field that is required must be completely filled to be able to meet up with data completeness requirement and timeliness. We should also ensure that whatsoever information we are collecting should be made available to the internal users in time, because every information has a timeline at which it's supposed to be used for decision making. So we should ensure that we make the information available in time for the internal users to make their decisions. Then our integrity. So when we talk about integrity, we're talking about the security of the data that we are collecting, which involve confidentiality. So we should ensure that the respondent's information is secure, is restricted, is protected, whatever by password, and also as interviewers, we the researchers, we the evaluators, we should also ensure that we behave in a manner that is highly acceptable by international standard. Make sure we shouldn't influence respondents' responses, and we should also create an environment where every respondent will be confident, will be relaxed, will find ideal to participate in the research or the interview. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, Lisha. Epanu Alex. Epanu Alex, please, you can submit, then Amanya Aaron will come in.
Thank you, moderator, and greetings to the members. I would also want to talk about something on, let me talk about on the abstract. What should the abstract look like, or what is this constituted in? In the abstract, we should talk about the introduction about the study. I should talk about the brief description of the research problem or its context. This would explain the study. Why is it necessary or important? Should also talk about or include the purpose or the objectives of the study, clearly stating the main aim of the research. You mentioned the specific objectives or the research. I mean the focuses on the research, which is appropriate or necessary. So in the abstract, you should also highlight something on the research methodology. You briefly explain or describe the study in which should be conducted. You should talk about what method have you taken? Have you decided to go quantitative or qualitative, or even is it mixed? So also highlight the population size, the population, and it included in the abstract. So you should also highlight the sampling techniques, the way of collecting data, and the data collection method, and also the data analysis techniques. If you have gone quantitative, should include the sample size at which you are going to, the coverage of the sample you're going to Either if you're giving questionnaires, so you should highlight the sample size. You should also talk about the key findings. Summarize your most important findings. Also include your major results that answer the research objectives. Should also clearly include the statistical results that may be included. This is also required in the abstract. Then also you should state the overall conclusions drawn from your findings. You should also explain the results, explain what the results mean. As per your research. You should also talk about, explain how research contributes to the knowledge or best practices. So also mention the recommendations. Mention the recommendation. Basically, that's what I would want to highlight on the abstract. Back to you, the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanya Aaron. You can give your submission and then Ekuju will take over from you.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam President, and good morning to all members. I hope I'm loud and clear. Mine is an observation on chapter 3, which is basically the research methodology, because I feel it's one of the most important parts of the research, where someone or the researcher should be able to explain how he or she conducted his study. Of course, being cognizant that chapter 1 and chapter 2, of course, tell about they are always about the introduction. They tell the reader what the study is about, and chapter 2, which is the literature review, provides, of course, background and existing knowledge. So chapter 3 is very important because it clearly lays out the tools, the techniques and strategies that one should use to generate and analyze data. So to me, chapter 3 is very important because it's more or less, like I can say, like the heart of the proposal of the research. And chapter 3 must be detailed enough for one researcher to be able to replicate the study, or to be able to fully get also add on. And then in chapter 3, every method or decision that one makes must be justified and linked to the research objectives. Of course, the methodology, being aware that the methodology is determined by, should also be in line with the objectives. Can say that it should be clear, organized, and free from any errors. Case in point, like we should be in position to avoid using jargons most of the times. And then another thing is that chapter 3, it should also highlight the purpose of the methodology that you've decided, like you've used. So because this one clearly will help to explain the research approach and justify why it was chosen, and also should be able to provide a step-by-step account of how the research study was conducted. Chapter 3 also focuses, it also helps to establish the credibility by ensuring that the study is valid, reliable, and ethically sound. So, and another thing is that with methodology, it should be able to help the examiners or the supervisors and the readers to know that the results are authentic. So And another thing that you should focus on, of course, on the research design. This one determines how you're going to collect and analyze the data. And there are very many different designs depending on what you choose. There is descriptive, there is experimental, correlational, case study, ethnographic, and then the last one, which I believe also is used but not mostly used, is the phenomenological design, which focuses on lived experiences of the participants. And then also choosing the right design. This one specifically should be in line with knowing, does this align with my research objectives? Because not each design can be chosen by the objectives. It has to be informed by the objectives. And then from there, if it aligns, then it will be able to help to align with the research questions. Then also another question that someone should be able to put in mind, is it feasible or given time, resources and data and access to participants? You're going to choose a methodology or the method which you find that it may restrict you from accessing data, and then also putting into consideration the finances that are available for you to do the exercise. Then of course, research population and the sampling size. And then from there, you also be in position to know how you justify the sample design, the sample size, and then the population size. Then there's of course the techniques. Which ones are you going to use in sampling? Is it going to be random, stratified, depending? And then of course, still on chapter 3, you also look at the instruments for data collection. Are you going to use questionnaires? Is it going to be structured or semi-structured questions? Or you're going to focus on using large samples? Then of course, these other methods, interviews, observation, to mention but a few. And then you find that there is also where you're forced to, or you decide to opt for standardized tests or other tools. Of course, these ones, they are those that you find that maybe you're going to rely on doing psychological tests or achievement tests, depending, and must be in position to describe the source and validity. Then the last one should be on data collection procedures. How are you going to do? Are you going to do pilot studies? Because these ones, with these instruments, they ensure that instruments are reliable before the main data collection. Then another step, you maybe look at the step-by-step procedure. Yes.
Aaron, kindly
Yes, please.
summarize. Kindly
Okay,
summarize so that we have two people. They're going to also do a summary, and we have
Okay.
Dr. start the lecture. Thank you.
All right. Then the last one is on the data analysis methods. Mainly the quantitative analysis, and then with this one we are looking at the descriptive statistics, whereby you decide to use percentages or maybe frequencies, depending on how best you really feel. Then we have the mixed methods, and then the ethical considerations, and then lastly look at the limitations and the delimitations. That's all I can say. If it's something that is very wide, but it all depends on the area of topic and the area of study that you're interested in. Thank you so much. Submit.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Charles Lish, I'm not giving you an opportunity. You already gave your submission. I'm having Ekuju and Patricia. Kindly summarize your submission so that we hand over to Dr. Patricia, please.
Thank you, Doreen. Mine is actually not in the composition of the research, but it is something that I landed on while I was going through doctor's notes. And of course, something interesting that someone can just bump into a student, anyone in our class, and ask a question of like, what reason would you give a reason for conducting a certain research, or is a research in place that you have chosen a topic from? So I learned in something, and of course I know everyone else may be, but just to cap is that a research that someone intends to carry out or has given in a proposal should be able to solve practical problems in organizations and communities, and also like public institutions. For example, I have a colleague who did, I think like 2 years back, he was sharing with me, he did a research about data transformation, and currently, obviously, he did it, and there are public institutions like NERA and Uganda Revenue Authority who have revisited his research, and they are considering employing him because of the topic, given the fact that NERA would like to have their data synchronized with Revenue Authority by having the NIN number to align with like a TIN number from URA. So that is something that I found interesting, because like myself, the topic that I chose was because I was affected in that area. And so I thought, oh, I should get more knowledge about it. But at the same time, I feel at this point, it should be something that I should benefit from. For example, if I had a project, if I research about a project, then in the future, I should be able to, for example, get a job out of it. And obviously, Doctor has said this over and again, that the research that we carry out should be able to generate new knowledge and strengthen academic debate. So this is also something that we should put at the back of our mind. And yeah, over to you, Doreen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Ekuji, do you still want to give your submission?
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Mrs. President. Good morning, Doctor.
Kindly summarize, so that we hand over to Doctor.
I would be very fast, as the first
Thank
means
you.
first.
Thank
From
you.
picking up from Kante, you left some points which were supposed to have been support policy formulation, program designing, and evaluation, reduce uncertainties, and also to meet the academic requirements. Those are the few reasons why we conduct. Back to the challenges, we look at one, we have limited fundings. In research, conducting research, we can have limited fundings, mostly on the side of students or someone who is conducting research. That's a big challenge. We have also what's called mentorship or knowledge of the researcher. Researcher may not be in position to have accurate knowledge. So he may be in position to struggle if he's not properly mentored. Then we look at data systems may also be weak. That could have been fragmented, could cause fragmentations, manually updated, and also it might also be very difficult to access. These are the challenges. Then you look at institutional sensitivity, like maybe you are doing a research on military hardwares, which is very hard to get an approval. So because of the sensitivity, a researcher might not be in position to go to the military hardware ground because of the sensitivity. And when making or choosing a topic, someone has to be in a position to choose a topic where, when giving a permission, it would be easily be permitted. And we look at the law of evidence used. So some evidence might not be in position to shoot the need because of the narrowness. Okay, because of the narrowness, because of the small size, it has been researched and will not be in position to meet the required. However, there are ways in which we would be in position to solve this problem. One, we need to begin with a clear and a manageable and socially relevant problems. We also need to look at seeking the permission from the immediate supervisors, which we have been allocated, so that we can be permitted. Then we also be in position to seek continuous mentorship from our lecturer or the person whom we are located as supervisors. Then we also have to maintain ethics, integrity by maintaining originality, proper referencing, and honest reporting. We also have to plan earlier in terms of time, in terms of money, then how to get the permissions, then the tools which you are going to use, and also the data in which you are going to access. Maybe for literature review, you need to plan earlier where we're going to get from them. Then we also have to, when we're disseminating information, we need to disseminate our findings so that it informs the policy practice and also improve the community needs. I submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ekuju. Over to you, Doctor.
Right. Thank you so much, Madam President. Can everybody see my slides?
Yes, of course.
Yes, yes, you can see your slide.
Right. Thank you, our colleagues. And you're welcome to our last presentation of this module TM500. I'm not very well, but I'll try to ensure that you people can hear me. So colleagues, like I mentioned in our previous lecture, today we're basically going to have a recap of all the modules, call them units for this module, research methods. Unfortunately, there are people who like dodging classes. We're supposed to be around 150 something. Today I'm seeing 121. And I want to warn that it is from my recap that I set the exams. You don't attend the last class, then you'll struggle to pass. Normally, that's where people say that man is bad, that woman is bad. Because we give tips from here, immediately after this, I will set an exam from these 7 units. So colleagues, we need to be attentive. Those who are not interested, of course, we shall not force them. And after this, I think you people are supposed to prepare for the test. It will be the second test. The first one, I didn't give you the test. What I did was to give you a coursework, which coursework I believe everybody submitted, and I've been very busy marking. So colleagues, let's take this as a very serious business. So having said that, for some of you who are new, who have not been in this class, those ones who are retaking the module, my name is Dr. Joseph Michael Okwadikuke. I will be taking you on this module. Tell those kids to move away. They are making noise for me. So the course of our discussion, basically, we're going to look at these units from 1 to 7. It's an opportunity for some of you who have not been able to join class, who have not been able to speak anything, but you are paid tuition and you are busy being here. And some of you are very comfortable in your sitting rooms, which is okay. Others are probably somewhere else. Today is a weekend. It's fine. Relax your mind. Some of us may not really have all this time. So colleagues, I therefore warmly welcome you to this comprehensive recap of research methods module. And I must say, today we are not revising the 7 isolated units. No, we are joining them into one continuous research journey. That journey begins with curiosity and a real problem. That's what I want us to understand. It begins with the curiosity and a real problem. Then we move through a thorough, what we call philosophical assumption, topic selection, methodology, and data analysis, and probably end with the proposal, development, dissertation writing, and publication and dissemination. This is what I ought to, be able to discuss with you colleagues. Ideally, I wanted to mention this maybe in our introduction. The central message I want you colleagues to get is that credible research depends on alignment. I will repeat this. If you are looking at any kind of research that you are going to conduct or that you have conducted, it depends on alignment. The problem must connect to the objectives. The objectives must guide the methods. The methods must generate relevant evidence. And the findings must answer the original question. Colleagues, as we review the module, relate every concept to your own profession, institution, or community. Why? Because research becomes meaningful when it helps us to understand reality, improve decisions. Colleagues, I want you to consider, say, a district hospital experiencing what we call repeated delays in emergency care. With me, I relate all my examples to the health industry. Why? Because I'm a health professional. A researcher, therefore, should not begin by assuming that staff negligence is the cause. No. The study must examine evidence, systems, resources, referral procedures, the processes, and the patient's experiences before drawing a conclusion. Colleagues, I want to ask this question. What practical problem in your workplace could be transformed into a researchable study? This is what we ought to understand as we're coming to this recap and the conclusion of our module. Colleagues, the key message here is research is a disciplined journey from a relevant problem to credible evidence and useful action. This is very, very important. Colleagues, I therefore want us, first of all, to look at the objectives of this recap. Colleagues, I want us to understand that we are here not just to listen and sit back. No. The aim and objectives of this recap are basically for us to ensure that we join all of these units of this module, right from unit 1 to the last one, and see how they can flow, so that when any exam related to this is probably brought up, or even in your practical work, you should be able to know how best this can be reunited. Colleagues, I am also here to guide and support you on the key presentations and examination readiness tips. If I'm not here, maybe you will not know how the exams will be set. Some of you continue accusing me to a number of offices. You know, when that man is in the class, he even tells us where he sits from. You will not be understanding. There is no teacher who teaches students who fail. And with my classes, those who fail actually will have loved to fail. If you are here and you are retaking, know and take my message well. You are given 4 questions, you answer 1, you answer 2. Some people even begin bringing excuses, you know. Some of them are in the process, you know, are funded, and they want to breach you by the rank because they think they will be able to get sympathy. I have an assignment, I've just managed this. What do you expect me to do when I'm marking? First of all, I will not look at your name, I will not look at your rank, I will not even want to know which profession you come from. So colleagues, tips will be given. But again, we shall also be discussing issues to do with common research mistakes that we should be able to avoid. Yes, we shall look at this, but very importantly, major key takeaways from the module. What have you been able to pick? Colleagues, today we have to connect the whole research journey into one clear map. That's what I wanted to say. Having said that, colleagues, I want us to understand the fact that when we are here to learn. And if we are here to learn, then we ought to understand exactly what do we learn. The main objectives of this specific module is for us to consolidate all these 7 research units. Explain the major concepts and link them. Apply the ethics and the APA citation. People have mentioned about this. Connect these paradigms, methods, and analysis. But most importantly, I want you people to prepare the 15 groups and ensure that you bring out your best and be able to explain some of these concepts and whatever you have learned, so that again, at the end of the day, you build up confidence for your examination. This is key and very important. But if it's not important to some of you, no worries. We don't have any issue to begin, joking with here and there. So, colleagues, this is very important. And we're beginning right from what you are saying. So, colleagues, I want us to understand that, the presentation that we're having follows a deliberate sequence. When we talk about the deliberate sequence, we ought to understand it very well. We begin with the purpose, nature and the purpose of research. Very important. And we ought to know this was our unit number 1. And we're saying the nature and the purpose of research. Research paradigms will be another. The research process would be something else that we ought to understand. The data analysis, all this proposal development and so on and so forth. All these are found right on this flow. Colleagues, that's what I wanted us to know. So, but the final section, concentrates on the colleagues, an issue where we are saying we need to, revisit the 7 units, of course, but the final session is basically concentrating on application. Yes, we shall identify the major lessons from the module. Yes, prepare group presentations and the examination. And probably we shall also be able to highlight the common mistakes that I had already mentioned in this practical presentation that we're going to have. So, colleagues, I want to ask a question. And the question would be that, a student may understand sampling, yes, but still produces a weak study if the sample does not match the population. These are issues that we ought to understand. Yes, a student may understand sampling, but still produces a weak study if the sample does not match the population, objectives, and even design. So the outline reminds us that the study quality comes from the whole chain, not one isolated technique. That's what I want us to understand about this specific, unit that we are recapping today. You look at this and ensure that you connect the dots. I want you to look at that roadmap. Look at it and see the pictorial version of it. Because again, at the end of the day, people will say, but what was he talking about? I did not connect. So I want to engage you and I want to ask, and colleagues, I will mention this again. As we move through the slides, I want us to look at the slides. Keep asking what decision is being made and what evidence is required.
These are questions that you can be asking internally, so that ideally at the end of the day, when you come out of this mighty university of ours, Utamu, you should have allowed the university to pass through you. I keep mentioning this. I don't know whether colleagues really understand what I keep mentioning. I keep meeting some of the alumni on the street, then I ask them, what did I teach you? You see somebody walking on the road and is eating, munching, and eating a lot of, nyama choma on the road. And this is a person who has gone through a university and he calls himself a master's or even a PhD. I've mentored and produced PhD holders as well. So colleagues, we ought to look at this and ask these questions. So the key message therefore that we must have here is that the module should be understood as one coherent system of decisions. Colleagues, we now need to clarify what learners should achieve by the end of this recap. What would you want to achieve? I've mentioned this. Consolidate all the 7 research units. Explain major concepts and links. Apply the ethics and APA citation. And when you talk about ethics, somebody said that you can actually bring somebody maybe to town, for instance, in Kampala here, but you may not be able to remove the village from that person if the village is still in that person. But that's not what I'm trying to imply. We're saying if you are being told that this is what you ought to do in research, please, let's keep that and make sure that you do not go and sit under the mango tree and begin doing your own things. This is what we're saying. So we should understand that we all need to get what is supposed to be done, such that when we come out as men and women who are thinking like researchers. So overall, colleagues, the aim is to consolidate the full research methods module for confident presentation, examination performance, and future dissertation work. Colleagues, by the end of this session, you should be able to explain major research concepts accurately, distinguish among paradigms and approaches, connect research problems to suitable designs, and justify methodological choices. Colleagues, you should also be able to apply research ethics, use APA citation consistently, interpret quantitative and qualitative evidence, and also be able to explain how a proposal develops into a dissertation and eventually into a publication or even a policy product. Why not? These are not merely examination outcomes, by the way. I want us colleagues to get this. They are not merely examination outcomes. They are professional competences required in health, education, security, management, public policy, and developmental kind of policies, practical issues. If I've not mentioned your area, please don't get offended. I want to give an example. For instance, a public administrator evaluating a youth development, maybe employment program. Yes, he must understand both numerical outcomes, such as the proportion employed, or quantitative experiences, such as why some participants dropped out. Yes, why drop out? Because when we're beginning, I think we had over 150 participants in this particular class. Right now, as I talk, if I remove myself, you're 125. Where are the other 30 plus? Yesterday, the quality assurance officer, I don't know whether she's in, was asking me, doctor, tell us how many students are in your classes. I told her I cannot guess. Maybe you'll not just have to join the class. Madam Quality Assurance Officer, if you are in, please, now you are seeing the numbers. And I hope this answers the questions that you were asking me yesterday. So colleagues, I want us therefore, I don't know whether the time will be there, where time catches up, no worries, we can join the next class. Maybe before I look at this unit number 1, Madam President, how much time are you giving me so that I don't just explain, I just also outline like some of you do. How many minutes are you giving me?
Doctor, we can push up to 12:30.
12:30 it is. Thank you. So, colleagues, therefore, we are going to start all these from nature and purpose of research. And we said we look at this as unit number 1. For some of you who are takers, retakers, the ones who are dodgers, know that this is unit number 1. Will I set an exam from here? Why not? Yes, of course. And that's the purpose of this recapping. So, colleagues, I want us to look at research as a systematic, a logical, and ethical process of generating knowledge, or even solving a problem, by the way. Why not? It differs from ordinary information gathering. Why? Because it follows a clear procedure. It uses evidence, documents decisions, and it follows findings to be examined by others. Research may be basic when it extends knowledge and theory, or explained when it addresses a practical challenge. Marvin, you are going? Did you pick the money from my pocket? Oh, it's okay. Just pick that money. Use it. The money you have might be enough. Might not be enough. You have enough money? Just open my room there. Check on the toes I will put on your side. There is some money. Then you can leave the loose one. Just bring it here, because that guy bring what I'm going to disturb my class. Okay then. So colleagues, sorry about that. So we're talking about nature and purpose of research. And we are saying, when you talk about nature and purpose of research, there are so many things that we're looking at. Because we are saying, you know, research differs from ordinary information gathering. And we say it is because it follows a procedure. It uses evidence and document decisions. And probably then it allows findings to be examined by others. But again, I went ahead to say research may be basic. I want us to understand this. It may be basic, yes, when it extends knowledge to theory, or even applied when it addresses a practical challenge. Colleagues, it may also be descriptive, explanatory, exploratory, or evaluative. You can mention it depending on what kind of books you read. Colleagues, I want us to understand that all what we're discussing here is something that we ought to understand, because ideally we need to know that in a professional setting, research supports evidence-based decision making. I'll mention this again. In basic research, you can call it, we ought to understand that all of these key issues are very important for us to understand. Why? Because we need to understand that, you know, when you are a professional, and in any professional setting, we need research to be conducted for simply supporting evidence-based decision making. But it also helps us as leaders move beyond assumptions. Move beyond assumptions. Yesterday, I was in one of the gatherings and somebody said that, you know what, these guys from TESO now have lost it. Nobody will trust them because they are corrupt officials. You can imagine among the 7 guys who were taken to court, they are all from TESO. Those are not good assumptions. You know, I wanted to remind them that my name also begins with O and also come from TESO, but I'm not corrupt. So I only looked at them and I nodded in disagreement. Then they said, but who is this man? But this one looks to be from the West. That was another assumption. These are good ones. Colleagues, when you are making decisions, don't make them based on assumptions. No. Make them not because you have the tradition and personal opinion. No. Colleagues, this is what we're talking about, the science. So however, therefore, colleagues, scientific research is not defined only by statistics. No. This is what we're talking about. It is defined by disciplined inquiry, transparency, appropriate methods, and respect for participants. This is what we're talking about. Ethics protect participants and society. This is what we're talking about. Colleagues, I also gave you as a class, you may not be able to answer this, but have it at the back of your mind. So the same questions may come, ideally at the end of this module. What is the difference between conducting research and merely collecting information? This is a very important question. And you don't take it for granted because the team may come, not just in class, but outside there. Because I see people using AI. AI is where you can collect information. Do not take every information that you collect from AI to be absolute truth. No. Because it gathers anything from anywhere. Opinions, it also puts them there. That's why I normally tell my students that anything from Wikipedia today is irrelevant. You might have to look at other tools where you will be able to get something better. Colleagues, therefore, the key message that I wanted to bring out when I ask a question, what's the difference between conducting research and merely collecting information, is that curiosity starts research, but methods, evidence, and ethics make it scientific. I will repeat this. If you ask me a question, what's the difference between conducting research and merely collecting information? I might have to tell you that you have to be curious. And every research begins with curiosity. But methods, evidence, and ethics makes what we call scientific. Colleagues, I want us to understand this. I don't know whether the time will be there for me, but let's look at thinking like a researcher. Colleagues, thinking like a researcher means questioning assumptions. Don't just go and begin saying, yes, where does AAA come from? That's now the topic of the day. Bukedia, then they all the Bukedians are failed. That's not true. Even AAA is not yet convicted. It's an assumption, and normally they say, whoever facts must prove. I'm not a lawyer, not an advocate, but I have a background of security because I've been a policeman. I'm a lieutenant of police, and I've served in this government for the last 39 years. Don't ask me what I'm doing in this class. Definitely, I will tell you I'm sharing knowledge. I'm not there to arrest people, even in the police. I'm in charge of research, innovation, and policy unit. So you should not be surprised why I'm teaching research here. So colleagues, how do we think like researchers? It's very important. So thinking like a researcher means questioning assumptions. Question them. Those assumptions. Ask questions. So asking answerable questions and separating personal opinions from verifiable evidence is key and very important. It requires intellectual humility, the willingness to discover. Yes? Make sure you discover that our original belief may be incomplete or wrong. Colleagues, in Uganda and the wide Africa context, research must also be sensitive to language. I will mention this again because people are very reckless. I pity those who are on TikTok and they take TikTok for, I'm a professional, I'm a health professional. If you found me TikTok, then say, what did this man say? I happen to be a chairperson of the dentistry body, Minister of Health of Uganda. And sometimes I ask this dentist, say, are you TikToking? What are you trying to prove? We are not supposed to advertise. Why are you doing this? Colleagues, I want us therefore to understand that when we are looking and thinking like researchers, we must be sensitive to language, cultural institutions, institutional realities, data availability, and the community expectations. Why? Researchers must plan for ESCOL approval, administrative permission, transport participants access, digital, even paper-based tools, confidentiality and data security. Very key and very important. Colleagues, limited resources do not justify weak methods. No. Instead, they require careful scoping and realistic planning. A meaningful and well-executed study is academically stronger than an ambitious study that cannot be completed properly. I'll give you an example. A student studying service delivery across all districts may lack the resources to collect reliable data. Narrowing the study to selected districts or one institution can improve feasibility without destroying reliance or even relevance. Colleagues, that's very important. So colleagues, I want us to engage ourselves. How can a researcher therefore remain objective while working within an institution where they are already an employee? That question would have been best answered by me because I've never conducted any research outside police. Some of you are good at Google. You can go and look at any article. You can even go to, what do they call it? I'm yet to upload. I have about 40 other articles to upload, but I'm too lazy. ResearchGate, I have a number of articles there. You'll find, all of them are in police. So we're asked, how can a researcher remain objective while working within an institution where they are already an employee? That was the first question I was asked when I was in Mbarara University of Science and Technology, where I was presenting a thesis, PhD thesis, and they asked me, are you a policeman, yes or no? And in PhD, there are no questions and answers that are given as yes or no. I gave that gentleman was the chairperson of the panel a background that he will live to not remember, but forget. But maybe he will not forget, but he will remember. Each time he meets me, tells me, you are a research engaged. I gave him an answer that lasted for 10 minutes. You may want to know what answer I gave, but not now, because we don't have that time. Colleagues, the useful and the key message here is, useful research must be ethical, feasible, and grounded in local realities. That's what you ought to understand. Colleagues, having said that, let's now look at our unit number 2. Somebody may be asking, where have we reached? Unit 2, meaning we're remaining with other 5 units. We're looking at research paradigms. Colleagues, a research paradigm is a world view that shapes how a researcher understands reality, knowledge, and inquiry. Ontology asks what reality is. Epistemology asks how knowledge about the reality can be known. Methodology explains the broad approach used to investigate it, while axiology, colleagues, considers the role of values and ethics. Colleagues, positivism generally assumes that reality can be measured objectively and is commonly associated with quantitative research. Interpretivism emphasizes meaning, experience, and context, and is usually associated with qualitative research. Pragmatism focuses on methods that best answer the problem and often supports mixed methods. Colleagues, you can look at this. Critical approaches therefore examine power, inequalities, and transformation. I hope I'm communicating. The paradigm should be selected because it fits the research problem, not because it sounds sophisticated. You remind me, Madam Class President, that I share with you a sample of one of my dissertations from the same university, for you to be able to appreciate what I've done, especially about the research paradigms. Not common that students do it at master's level, but I did. Thank you. Let's take an example. A study measuring the relationship between staff training and performance may lean towards positivism. A study exploring how health workers experience burnout may lean towards interpretative. I want to engage you, class. What assumptions about reality and knowledge are hidden inside your proposed research topic? This is key and very important. The key message here is a paradigm shapes what the researcher considers value, knowledge. I'll mention this again. A paradigm shapes what the researcher considers valid knowledge and probably appropriate evidence. That's what we ought to understand from what I would call research paradigms. Colleagues, we are now going to quantitative and qualitative research paradigms. Quantitative research focuses on measurement, variables, numerical patterns, and statistical relationships. It is appropriate when the researcher wants to estimate prevalence, compare groups, test hypotheses, or even determine the strength of association between variables. Colleagues, it is quality depends on valid measurement. I'll mention this again. The quality of quantitative depends on the valid measurement, suitable sampling, adequate sampling size, and correct analysis. How about qualitative research? Qualitative research paradigms explores meanings, yes, very key and very important, experiences, procedures, and context. It is useful when the researcher wants to understand how and why people behave, interpret events, or even experience institutions. Its strength lies in the depth and explanation. Mixed methods colleagues integrate numerical breadth and width with the quality depth. That's very important for us to understand. I'll repeat this. That the qualitative strength lies in depth and explanation. However, mixed methods integrate numerical, what we call breadth with qualitative depth, but integrates what I would call the planned action. So the integration must be planned. Colleagues, methods should follow what I would call the problem, not the researcher's comfort zone. Yesterday, I was reviewing one of the students that I supervised. I reviewed her work, I think, 2 days ago at the Bugolobi campus. That's where I sit. For some of you want to know me physically, come to Bugolobi, you'll find me there. I'm given to be there for 3 days, and I love being there. So I come, pick the work of a student who dropped it there, and I will make sure before I sleep, I will have finished reviewing that work. So I reviewed the work and left it there. But of course, you get feedback from some of these students that I think this man just hates me. And not about hating, it does not conform to what I require and the standards of the university. So do not do research because you are doing it using your comfort zone. No. Focus on the problem. So you land on me as your supervisor? No, I will engage you and I will engage you properly. So colleagues, let's have a practical example. Maybe to study university dropouts. Yes, so many of them. A quantitative survey may show how many students live and which factors are associated with dropout. Interviews may explain me how financial pressure, academic culture, or even the family responsibilities influence that decision. I still want to engage you, colleagues. Would one approach adequately answer your research question? Or it's a mixed method design justified? That's the question that I would ask you. So, colleagues, the key message here is quantitative research measures patterns. Very important. Quantitative research explains the meaning. Mixed methods intentionally connects both. That's what you ought to understand. And you ought to understand this and get it pretty well. This is very key, colleagues, and we ought to understand this and make sure we follow what we get in the class. If you don't, then sometimes you might have issues, and ideally at the end of the day, you will begin saying, I think that man has issues with me. There is no issues I have with anyone, no. You could be having issues with yourself probably. But I must say, sometimes we take things for granted. And because we take things for granted, we end up having key issues, again, at the end of the day. So, colleagues, we therefore need to understand, and the key message here is, quantitative research measures patterns. That's what I want you to understand. But the qualitative research explains meanings, then mixed methods intentionally connects both. This is what I want us to get, colleagues. Let's look at unit number 3. We are remaining with maybe 4 more and we shall get done. But when you realize that you are not able to continue up the last, no worries. We shall meet at the examination room. Colleagues, the research process is the systematic path through which an idea becomes what I call a defensible study. It normally begins with identifying a broad area, reviewing primarily literature, selecting and refining a topic, building the background, stating the problem, developing objectives and questions, and selecting an appropriate methodology. Colleagues, although textbooks often present the process as a straight line, colleagues, actual research is interactive. A literature review may focus and may force the researcher to refine the topic. I've quite done that. I have a student I'm supervising said, why does this man continue disturbing me like this? Do I drop him? So sometimes we're allowed, by the way, you drop me, go get another person who's just going to sign, it doesn't engage you, you come and meet me in the panel. Then I will squeeze you and ask you why you think what you are studying is relevant. And you will actually see that things will not turn out well. Because every other panelist will see Tukey is bringing a message here, which is clear. So we're not just in this class because we want to row and be listened to. No, we engage you. Colleagues. Therefore, pilot testing may reveal that an instrument is unclear. There's a student I'm told to go back to the field to collect data. She thought she had arrived. That student has not come back to me for the last 6 months. To her, it's a punishment. But she only collected data from one variable, especially the IV, which does not even contain the problem. If you were me, what would you do? Would you pass the student? And what would I look like in a panel? And what would I look like when I meet the student that has got a master's and has been chosen to be the ED of some company? Then they will say the person does not know how to lead. Then I will begin blaming myself. Why did I pass that? Colleagues, A practical example I want to give you here is a broad interest such as employee performance becomes researchable only after specifying the organization, population, and selecting for an example, training quality, yes, and employee performance selected in local government. I want to engage you, colleagues. A strong study begins with a focused problem and maintains alignment from title to conclusion. There are students who like throwing their titles to me. Doctor, help me here. Is this title okay? I said, very good, very excellent. But if you're my student, I would say no. Let's begin with a problem.
والله صحيح ركعت بنت على سدح ركعت خمسة كده عن مقصة نكعت خمسة
نيو حكارة فيلكا فيلكا نيو بس ما كان صوت ثاني سمعان بالله بيتقولوا تات نقطة أنا بترسكم
warfeelka ana sababtan aan ku sheegaa warfeelkan waa laisku dagaalay
Abdullahi, can you mute your
Abdullahi kan mungkin تاخد في سال صمت
musa warfeel oo lasoo ceshtay waay ma aan feel oo anaga qabano ma xataa
maya qabashada ka imaanaysa damaanada 18 species hadi waay
ninkan maamulaha wuxuu dhan mataqaanaa ninkan lama helaayo ninka oo nuuda sam waa IBS kaas kale waaye erayaa macnaha feelka waxaa la diyaari justification.
So do I continue?
Yes, doctor, you can continue.
Yes, doctor.
That was interlude.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
It's an interlude, but you miss a lot. With me, whenever there's any mic open, I believe you want to take. So I stop and listen to you. But you miss a lot. I met some of you co-hosts to either remove such people or mute them. So unless you have not paid tuition, I see the class is reducing. Some people may not have paid tuition. Anyhow, where were we? You can remind me such that I pick it up from there.
Doctor, we were discussing about colleagues who are submitting their topics for your approval.
Remind me again.
We are discussing about colleagues who are submitting their topics for approval for your attention.
Oh, yes. So colleagues is very important. By the way, when we're in class, you people have paid your tuition. You need to know that when we're in a class, we need to be very scholarly. So the issue I was bringing here is that you can have a broader interest, such as employee performance. Yes, it becomes researchable only after specifying the variables. That's what I said. Somebody's mic is open. Does the person want to mention something, or you allow me finish? I don't know. Remember, we are limited by time. Does somebody want to mention something?
Continue, doctor.
All right, thank you. So I just want to engage you. Class, which stage of the research process is most often rushed by students? Which stage of the research process is most often rushed by students? Don't be surprised to see that coming in your exam. The key message here is a strong study begins with a focused problem and maintains alignment from title to conclusion. When you are my student and I'm supervising you, then you tell me this is my topic. I will tell you, excuse me, madam, excuse me, sir. Go and write a concept and send it to me and we share. And I want to share it with you physically. For some of you are in Uganda, I normally tell you, don't send me anything online. Unless if you are outside, like the Charleses of this world, the Kirs of this world are. Those ones I will forgive them. But I will still tell you, send me a synopsis, send me a concept paper, and I'll be able to look at it. And that concept paper, I want to look at the problem. and the magnitude of the problem. Any problem without measurement is not a problem for me. So colleagues, you ought to understand that this is key and very important. Yes, let's continue, colleagues. And I want us to look at the problem, objectives, and hypotheses. And we're saying the statement of a problem is an academic heart of a proposal. I want us to understand this. It should show the undesirable and unexplained situation. It should also provide evidence of its seriousness. It should identify the knowledge or practice gap and explain the consequences of leaving the gap unresolved. It should not merely state that a problem exists. It must demonstrate why research is necessary. This is what you ought to understand. And we need to get this right. So the general objective states the overall purpose, while specific objectives divide that purpose into meaningful tasks. Research questions directly mirror the objectives. In quantitative studies, hypotheses may predict relationship or differences that can be statistically tested. Variables and concepts must be defined clearly when the problem objectively and objectives, questions, hypotheses, and even methods do not correspond. The study loses direction. So you must be objective. I want to engage you, colleagues. And my engagement would be that if the problem is poor patient waiting time, an objective on employee salary may be unrelated unless the literature or conceptual framework clearly shows the connections. And that's normally why I have issues. Somebody tells you these are more objectives. When you look at objectives and look at the conceptual framework, they have not been properly operationalized, and you really see this as a problem. So colleagues, I want to engage you. Can each of your specific objectives be answered by the data you plan to collect? That's the question I'm asking. And the reason why I told this student to go back to collect the data is because she had not collected data from all the objectives. And besides, she had not included the DV. So the key message here is alignment is the backbone of credible study. Colleagues, this is key and very important. I want us to look at literature review and APA referencing. A literature review is a critical scholarly conversation. I want you to understand this very well. Not a list of summaries, no. It identifies what is known, where scholars disagree, which theories explain the issue, what methods have been used, and which gaps remain. Colleagues, a strong review compares, contrasts, and synthesizes studies by themes, concepts, or objectives. Sources should be credible, relevant, and sufficiently current, while all the foundational works may be retained where necessary. Conceptualization defines the theoretical meaning of key concepts. Operationalization explains how they will be observed and measured. APA referencing gives credit, supports academic integrity, and enables readers to trace evidence. Every in-text citation should have a corresponding reference entry, and every reference entry should be cited in the text. Some of you do not do that. You find a reference is longer than what is cited, or what is cited is not in the reference. Colleagues, I want to engage you. What's the difference between a literature summary and a literature thesis? The key message here is a literature review builds an argument from evidence and reveals what we call studies contribution. Very key and very important. Unit number 4, and we're closing to the end. We need to understand this very well. Methodology. Colleagues, research methodology explains the logic behind the methods used in a study. It should justify the research approach, design population, sampling, data sources, instruments, procedures, quality control, ethical safeguards, and analysis plan. Colleagues, methodology is therefore more than naming a questionnaire or an interview. A research design provides the overall structure. The descriptive design describes the situation. Correlational designs examine relationships. Experimental and quasi-experimental designs assesses what we call effects. Case studies integrate bounded systems. Phenomenological explores lived experience. And other qualitative and quantitative designs, they serve different purposes. Colleagues, the design must fit the objectives and the type of evidence required. Practically speaking, a study seeking to establish whether training predicts staff performance may use a correlational design. A study exploring how surveyors and probably survivors, depending on what exactly you want to understand and study, they experience what we call a service. They use what we call phenomenological or quantitative case study. Colleagues, these are all the types of designs that you ought to know. They are right there, and you ought to look at them because they are within the platform. I want to engage you. Why is it that academically, let me recast this. Why is it that academically we state things which are weak to state? And normally somebody says, I used a survey design because it was easy. Some people state like that. I used a survey design because it was easy. Can you imagine? The key message here is that methodology must explain why the selected path is the best way to answer the research question. This is key and very important. Still within the unit number 4, that's the methodology, I want us to look at key issues. Sampling and sampling size. The population is the full group. The population is the full group. I think I have issues with my, just a moment, allow me connect. I want to connect my laptop power. I think I have a problem with my battery now is low. Just a moment, colleagues. Allow me to do this. Let me connect it. I hope it's charging. Just a moment, colleagues. I hope you are there. Are you there?
Of course, we are.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just give me 30 seconds. I'm connecting my gadget so that I'm able to flow together with you. Yeah, I think we're there. So colleagues, we're saying that a population is the full group to which the study relates, while the sample is a subset from which data are actually collected. Sampling should be justified because it affects representativeness. This is key and very important. It also affects credibility and the extent to which findings can be transferred or generalized. Probability sampling gives eligible members a known chance of selection, and it includes simple random, systematic, strategic or stratified, and cluster sampling. It's very important. Non-probability approaches include purposive, convenience, quota, or snowball sampling. They are commonly used when specialized participants, hidden population, or in-depth insight are required. A sample size depends on the design, population, variability, level of precision, analytical needs, and available resources. It should never be guessed or copied without justification. I want to engage you, colleagues. And I want to give an example before engagement anyway. A health survey may use stratified sampling to represent different professional groups. A study of survivors of trafficking may use purposive and snowball approaches because the population is different to identify. I want to engage you therefore. How do a poorly selected sample distort the conclusion of a study? The key message here is, colleagues, sampling must match the population, objectives, design, and intended claims. This is key and very important. How about looking at the tools? Tools, validity and reliability. Very important. This is still on unit number 4. Data collection methods may include survey, interviews, focus group discussion, observation, documentary reviews, and maybe existing data sets. An instrument is the practical tool. For example, when you're looking at an instrument, a questionnaire, interview guide, observation checklist, focus group, mention them. But every item should link to a specified objective, variable, or the theme. Let's look at validity, colleagues. Validity asks whether the instrument measures what it is intended to measure. Reliability asks whether it produces consistent results under comparable conditions. In qualitative research, colleagues, related quality principles include credibility, dependability, confirmability, and transferability. Colleagues, expert review, pilot testing, clear wording, standard procedures, and researcher training improves quality. Very important. A sophisticated analysis cannot rescue data produced by a weak instrument. No. Practically speaking, colleagues, if a questionnaire claims to measure a job satisfaction, but only asks about salary, it may fail to capture supervision, workload, recognition, and working conditions. I want to engage you. Which objective is addressed by each question in your proposal instrument? I want you to be checking yours. The key message here is a weak instrument produces weak evidence, regardless of the software used later. In 2016, I was at Utamu coordinating a PhD program between Utamu and Mbara University of Science and Technology. And as a coordinator, I sit in the panel. I don't ask questions, but I answer questions on behalf of the students. A question was asked to a student why he used the 5-Likert scale, and he was not able to answer. But the bottom line is they wanted to know why he had reversed the 5 leakages. From strongly agree as carrying a 5 digit to strongly disagree, which was supposed to be carrying 1, he put it as 5. And that student failed to defend that time and was given 6 months to repeat, rewriting everything. Colleagues, I'll repeat this, that a weak instrument produces a weak evidence, regardless of the software used later. Therefore, we ought to understand that everything that we do it with a purpose. For a purpose is the key to fulfillment. When you don't know the purpose of a thing, then you miss it out. Colleagues, let's look at unit number 5. Don't have to worry. We are now winding up. We're looking at qualitative data analysis. We are using the data analysis, and we need to begin with qualitative data analysis. Colleagues, qualitative analysis begins with organizing data, transcribing where necessary, reading repeatedly, and becoming familiar with the material. The researcher then codes meaningful segments, groups related codes into categories, and develops themes that answer the research questions. Colleagues, thematic analysis is widely used, but other approaches include content analysis, narrative analysis as well, discourse analysis, and grounded theory procedures are also used. Colleagues, good qualitative analysis goes beyond counting statements. It interprets patterns while preserving context and participants' meaning. Researchers should document analytical decisions, use illustrative quotations sparingly, and show how conclusions emerged from the data. Flexibility is essential because the researcher is part of the interpretive kind of process. Colleagues, I want to give you a practical example. Interviews with the teachers may generate codes such as large classes, limited materials, and administrative procedures. These may combine into a broader theme, such as institutional constraints on teaching quality. Colleagues, I want to engage you. How can a qualitative researcher reduce personal bias during coding and interpretation? The key message here is qualitative analysis transforms participants' voices into defendable themes and explanation. That's very important. Now let's look at qualitative data analysis. Qualitative data analysis begins before statistics are calculated. Questionnaires must be coded, data entered, labels defined, and errors checked. Data cleaning identifies missing values, impossible entries, duplicates, and outliers. Very important. Descriptive statistics such as frequencies, percentages, means, and standard deviations summarize patterns. Inferential statistics such as correlation, regulation, chi-square test, t-test analysis of variance as well, the Helep test, relations, and differences. The selected technique must match the research objectives, measurement levels, assumptions, and sampling characteristics. Statistical significance should not be confused with practical importance. No. Researchers must interpret the size, direction, and the meaning of results, not merely reporting a p-value. I want to give you an example, colleague. A correlation between training and performance may be statistically significant, but weak. The researcher should explain both the statistical results and its practical implication. Colleagues, I want to engage you. What checks should be completed before running inferential statistics? The key message here is numbers become credible evidence only when they are clean, analyzed appropriately, and interpreted honestly. We're coming towards the end, colleagues. I want us to look at still unit number 5. Very, very broad. And we're looking at presentation and interpretation of results. Colleagues, results should be organized according to the research objectives and questions. Tables and figures must be clear, numbered, titled, reference in the narrative. The researcher should highlight important patterns without repeating every number already visible in the table. Interpretation explains what the findings mean. Discussions then relate the findings to the theory. This is why I have very many problems with the students who I supervise. Previous studies and also the study context. Colleagues, agreement with the earlier research should be explained, and differences should not be hidden. Researchers must avoid over-claiming causality, generalizing beyond the sample and introducing evidence that was not collected. Software can support analysis, but responsibility for interpretation remains with the researcher. Colleagues, I want to give you an example. If 70% of respondents report delayed services, the researcher should explain the operational meaning, compare the findings with literature, and discuss possible context reasons. But I want to engage you. What is the difference between presenting a result and discussing results? The key message is presentation shows the evidence, interpretation explains its meaning and significance. Colleagues, we are moving, and I believe we are now on unit number 6, remaining with only 1. Those who are impatient, we're coming towards the end. Research proposal development. A research proposal is the blueprint of a study before fieldwork begins. It demonstrates that the proposed inquiry is important, coherent. At 2:15, I'll call you later. I'm in class, I'll call you later. I'll call you, Papa. So, colleagues, a research proposal is a blueprint of a study before fieldwork begins. It demonstrates that the proposal inquiry is important. It is coherent. It is feasible. But again, ethical and methodologically sound. That is key about proposals. Colleagues, major components commonly include what I would call the 3 sections: preliminary pages, the body, and appendices. And I want us to understand this. Within the body, we have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Chapter 1 is the introduction. Chapter 2 is the literature review. Chapter 3 is the methodology, which runs up the last reference page. Then appendices is basically the tools, work plan, and probably what you would call the schedule, how you're going to do what you're going to do, and maybe some important documents, but most importantly, the budget. So, colleagues, the proposal is both an academic and a management tool. Quality management document. It guides the researcher. It enables supervisors and a school committee to assess quality. And it helps institutions or funders determine whether the study should proceed. Colleagues, a proposal is not primarily a formality. No. It is a main opportunity to present expensive mistakes before data collection. Very key and very important. We're coming towards the end of this. I want to give you an example. A proposal on digital health records should explain the service problem, clarify variables, identify users and facility, justify the design, protect the patient information, and show realistic work plan. Colleagues, I want to engage you. Which section of the proposal provides the strongest evidence that the study is necessary? You're going to have this in your test. Then you begin saying, but he mentioned it, but I think it was fast, or it was slow. The key message here is a proposal is responsible planning. I will mention this again. A proposal is responsible planning, which is made visible before field work. Colleagues, I want us to get this and get it right. Because ideally at the end of the day, you are going to ask these same questions. Let's go and begin writing it because you wrote it. Writing an effective proposal begins with a genuine problem supported by evidence. They move logically from the broader context to the specific gap. Then to objectives, literature and methodology. Key concepts should be defined, assumptions made, explicit and limitations anticipated. Strong proposal writing is clear, precise, and economical. Academic language should not be confused with unnecessary complicated language. Each section must perform a distinct function, and repeated information should be removed. The researcher should verify citations. You should verify citations. Follow institutional guidelines. Utano has some of them. And we have got the guidelines for writing proposals and dissertations. I normally review them, say, what does this student want? You correct work and you say some things, you delete my comments, and then you send me something, even if it's 100 times. To K does not slave. I was warned by my doctors yesterday. I moved from the university slowly because I got 2 piercing pricks around my heart below the breast. And they told me it's a danger sign because sometimes I don't eat in time. I talk so much with a loud voice. I don't rest. I sleep only for 2 hours. And they told me, doctor, go and rest. I only came and sat on my massage chair for the whole night. I never went home. I woke up on the massage chair, a little better, and I'm becoming stronger. But I need lunch later, not from you. I have some small money. I'll buy it. Thank you. So, colleagues, I want to engage you. And the engagement is, what simple alignment matrix could you use to take your proposal before submission? Very important. Colleagues, we are coming to the end. The key message here is proposal writing is disciplined thinking made visible through coherent sections. So I want us to understand this very well. And let's go to the last one, dissertation. I can see some members have dropped out, which is not a problem. We can continue. You can join other classes and you get the recordings later. Why not? Madam President, do I continue with this or I can stop here? How many minutes are you giving me to cover this?
Oh, go ahead, doctor.
Just go ahead. Just complete it, sir.
Just complete it.
Thank you so much.
We are in the
So
spirit.
we're looking at unit number 7, which is the last one. A dissertation reports a completed research study and demonstrate the student's ability to conduct and communicate independent scholarly inquiry. It normally includes preliminary pages. Yes. It has the body, which body has got the introduction. It has the literature review section, call it chapter, methodology chapter, results chapter. Then you have got the recommendation or the discussion chapter. There are 5 chapters. Then, of course, you look at the other appendices. So, colleagues, we all therefore to understand that this coherently are supposed to be consistently moved from chapter to chapter. So we're saying consistency across chapters is essential. The objective states in chapter 1 or stated in chapter 1 should guide the literature review, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion. Recommendation must arise from findings rather than personal preferences. Studies should avoid plagiarism, fabrication, selective reporting, and unsupported claims. Good dissertation writing requires continuous review, accurate citation, careful editing, and respect to supervisors' guidelines. Colleagues, I want to give you an example. If one objective examines the influence of training on performance, the dissertation should show the relevant literature, measurement, analysis, finding, discussion, conclusion, and combination for that same objective. I want to engage you. Can a conclusion be valid if it is not directly supported by the findings? Yes? The key message here is a dissertation is constructed chapter by chapter. It's constructed chapter by chapter. But its quality depends on the alignment across the whole document. That's why you should hold on and be around and we finish together. Colleagues, this is very important. Let's look at publication and dissemination of this research. Dissemination findings can be transformed into journal articles. Right now, Universal Technology and Management University, Dean of Graduate School, I was once a dean, and I loved and enjoyed being a dean, graduate school. She has actually told us, those who are intending to submit any, maybe articles, first submit the abstract. Yes, we need this because it's very important. So dissertations can be transformed into journal articles. Right now, we are having the ICTM26 International Conference of Technology and Management. That's what ICTM means. And the conference papers will be required. Policy briefs will be required. Technical reports will be required. Presentation and community feedback products will be required. So that's why we say share the dissertation. So publication requires narrowing the focus. Yes, a journal article usually presents one central argument rather than producing the entire dissertation. Colleagues, researchers should choose credible journals that match the topic. Follow the author guidelines and avoid what we call predatory publishers. They are what we call predatory publishers. What we call ethical ownership requires honest contribution, accurate reporting, acknowledgement of resources and collaborators. Peer review should be approached with patience and professional humility. I have right now about 20 articles with my students. The peer reviewers have gotten back to me. But when I made my submissions, up to now, they have not been able to, get back to me, and I cannot harass them. So I'm waiting. I think by within this month, I will be able to publish all those articles. So dissemination also means communicating findings in accessible language to practitioners, but policymakers and also communities who can use them. Very, very important. I wanted to ask a question practically. Yes. A dissertation on maternal referral may be delays, may produce an academic article, a 2-page policy, maybe for health managers and a feedback session for participating facilities. Now the question here is, who needs your findings and what format would be most useful to each audience? It's key and very important. So the key message here is research creates greater values. It's very, very important. Greater values when credible findings are shared ethically with those who can use them. Very important. Colleagues, let's look at the key takeaways. This is key and very important for you. Yes? Unit number 1 to unit number 3, where we're talking about developing the mind of a researcher. Very important. Unit 1 establishes the research is a systematic ethical inquiry aimed at producing evidence or solving problems. Unit number 2 shows that every study rests on assumptions about reality, knowledge, and appropriate methods. Unit number 3 translates those assumptions into a practical process, which involves topic, problem, objective, literature, and conceptual clarity. Colleagues, the major lesson is that poor beginnings are difficult to repair later. I hope you understand this and getting it right. Poor beginning, that's the lesson you should take, are difficult to repair later. That's why I normally have issues with the students who just want to rush and send me work. Some of them come, I think today 2 or 3 are going to come, and tomorrow another one will come. And when they come, they begin with smiles on their faces, and some of them will want to offer you soda because they want you to approve their work. I will reject your soda or even take it, but still tell you you have something to do. But never tempt me with money, because I think I'm able to buy the soda even without what you have given me. I'm not trying to say that I'm so difficult that I don't take sodas, which are honest. Sometimes students do. They will tell you, excuse me, doctor, I have realized you rent sort of data, and I've just bought for you some data. And somebody does that without you knowing. But now they say, but why? Why did you do this? Sometimes I refund it. I tell you, no, I didn't need it. Thank you. Colleagues, I want us to understand this, that if you have a poor beginning, sometimes very, very difficult to repair it later. I will mention this again. A vague topic produces a vague problem. A vague problem produces a weak objective, and weak objectives lead to inappropriate methods and unfocused analysis. Get this and get it well. Therefore, you as participants, you should invest time in conceptual clarity, preliminary reading, and alignment before collecting data. Colleagues, I want to give you a practical example. A well-defined topic on procurement delays in one ministry is more researchable than a broader topic such as problems of government in Africa. I want to engage you. Which early stage mistake has the greatest effect on the rest of the study? You may not know. Why? Because vague problems that you start early are difficult to repair later. That's why sometimes we tell you, go back and rewrite. The key message here is the first half of a research training builds clear. Ethics and evidence-based thinking are key. Very, very important. Key takeaways, and this is where I set my exams from. You can choose to hold on or choose to go away, no worries. We're looking at unit number 4 to unit number 7. key takeaways. They transform a good idea into credible evidence and useful output. Yes? Methodology determines how evidence will be generated. Data analysis determines how that evidence will be organized and interpreted. Colleagues, proposal development tests whether the intended study is coherent and feasible. Dissertation writing and publication communicate the contribution, especially chapter 5, which is talking about summary, discussion, and the conclusion and contribution. All of this is very, very important. When I come in the class, I will call you in the next 10 minutes. In the next 10 minutes. In the next 10 minutes. Ajenga to court. No worries. Obongonat, but no, just give me some few minutes. I'll call you back. Okay, colleagues, this is key and very important. We are saying the major lessons that I want us to know about this, that the quality must be protected at every stage. Validity cannot be added after the collection. No, data collection. Ethical consent cannot be reconstructed after participants have been exposed to risk. Clear recommendations cannot emerge from poorly analyzed findings. The researcher must therefore plan quality, document decisions, and maintain integrity throughout what I would call the study. The practical example could be a study sample study may produce attractive tables, very well, but its findings may not represent the intended population. Presentation quality cannot replace methodology quality. Yes. I want to engage you. At which stage is research quality most vulnerable in your experience? Colleagues, the second half of research training turns an idea into defensible kind of evidence and the professional contribution. I want us to apply this. Colleagues, having said that, I want us to know that we are going to have group presentations. For group presentation, colleagues, you should not read slides. I do not read them. There are people who read slides word by word. I'm in a university where one time I was told to read the slides and I refused, and I was given the least marks in that university. I will not mention the name. But yesterday when my results came, I challenged him and I told him, excuse me, professor. I was the team leader. I am the one who wrote this work, and I did take over 90% of this work. How come I get the least mark? Those who read the slides were the ones who were given high marks. It could be good, but not to me. It's like somebody who reads the Bible and does not even raise his head. Please, colleagues, we do not just teach you to read and probably come out of the university. No, should be very good public speakers even out there. So colleagues, I want us to be very, very honest. And I want us to say that reading slides is not only criminal, but it's a sin. Slides are visual guides. The presenter must explain the argument. Begin with the problem, purpose, objectives, and contribution. Use practical examples. Define technical terms and support important claims and with credible sources. Colleagues, team members should divide roles fairly, rehearse transitions, and manage time. One speaker should not repeat what another has already said. The group should anticipate questions on concepts, methods, ethics, and evidence. Good presenters acknowledge limitations and answers honestly rather than guessing. Where appropriate, use Ugandan East African, African, and maybe the entire global kind of, for example, to demonstrate application. The question here, but before the question, let's give an example. If you have a presentation on youth unemployment becoming stronger when the group explains how the research design would distinguish between skills, gaps, labor markets, conditions, and finances. So colleagues, can each group member explain the whole study, not only their science slide? This is very important. The key message here is good presenters do not read slides. They explain evidence and confidence and teams. Colleagues, I want us now to go to the key part that I want you people to carefully listen to me. Those who are around, we may pass. Those who are not around may struggle to. Examination success requires more than memorizing definitions. I want you to understand this. This is now my marking game. Begin by identifying the command words. Define, explain, compare, analyze, evaluate, and design. Structure the answers accordingly. Define the key concept briefly. Apply them to the scenario. Support the reasoning and end with a clear conclusion. If you are here and you do not have ears, then you have a problem. If you are here and you have ever sat in my class and have set exams, know what I like. Colleagues, scenario-based questions require students to dialogue the research problem and recommend suitable methods. Use research language accurately. Population, sample, validity, reliability, variables, ethics, triangulation, and evidence. Where a question asks for practical examples from your country, the example must illustrate the concept rather than merely mentioning a country name. Manage time according to the marks. Give each part of the question adequate attention. If there are retakers here, just get me right. You are retaking this because you omitted a question. I give 4 questions. Question 1 is compulsory and carries 40 marks. People like omitting question 1 and they think they will pass. You will not pass. Even in the section B, where I bring like 6 or 7 questions and you're supposed to choose 3, people pretend that they are very busy people. And mark you, you're not supposed to put your name on the script. When I'm marking, I'm not looking for the name. I'm not even looking at the registration number. No, I'm looking at your answer sheet. Colleagues, you should desist from that. Colleagues, I also know there are people who come with the pre-written kind of exams. That one with my papers, don't do it because you'll fail. Because I ask different questions, or even the same questions, but using different scenarios. Colleagues, I want to ask, if asked to design a study on corruption reporting, do not only define qualitative research, no. Explain the design, participants, sampling instruments, ethics, and analysis appropriately to the scenario. I want to engage you as we conclude. What distinguishes a descriptive answer from an analytical answer? Some of you want to give descriptive answers. The strong message here is strong examination answers combine accurate concepts, practical application, logical structure, and evidence. You give me descriptive answers, I will give you descriptive marks. That's what you ought to understand. Colleagues, examination readiness is what we ought to look at, and I want us to get this. And I will mention this and I will mention it again. So you ought to get this right. Can we meet at 2 o'clock? I have a class now. 2 o'clock, please. You think you can come now? Emmanuel, can we meet at 1? Come at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, thank you. Thank you. I have a class I'm finalizing. So colleagues, examination readiness is what we're looking at. I know guys are getting irritated, but it's okay. You can choose to leave at this moment, no worries. But I'm giving tips. Examination success requires more than memorizing definitions. I mentioned this, and I want you people to understand this very well. Begin by identifying the command words. I mentioned this. And I'm saying continue analyzing all of these issues. Because ideally, at the end of the day, if you do not do what I have mentioned, you are going to have a lot of issues. Colleagues, let's look at the common mistakes to avoid. This includes selecting topics that are too broad, writing problem statements without evidence, using objectives that do not align with the title, and selecting methods because they appear easy. Other weaknesses include outdated or unrealistic resources, descriptive literature review, poorly designed instruments, unjustified samples, and inappropriate statistics. And academic integrity problems include plagiarism, fabricated data, altered results, and references that cannot be verified. AI is good, it's a source of information, but don't copy and paste, you'll have issues because we have got the AI checks. Don't have more than 30%. Some people have 100%. You are not a researcher. Colleagues, formatting errors may appear minor, but they can signal weak attention to detail. Yesterday, I had formatting errors with one student, and I got to understand that she was saying, I think this man just hates me. I don't hate you. If you are not going to put the borders according to the alignment, you have issues. Please, do them accordingly. I used to write, whenever I wrote my PhD thesis or a master's, I would give it to a primary teacher to proofread for me. And he would tell me, doctor, this is good, but you have issues here. Say, please rewrite for me and send it. Then after that, I would send it to one of my mothers. I have two mothers, one from Teso, another one from Kabale. She's called Dr. Speciosa Birungi from Bara University of Science and Technology, retired. And she would always tell me, excuse me, my son, this is a good work, but requires professional touch. Let me give it professional touch. And she would touch it, and you really see, you know, she's a professional copy typist. So she would tell me, I will do it. They are the ones who started Makerere University. Yes, Professor Kayanga, the Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and then Birungi Speciosa. Some of you do not know the university started in 1988 by those three people. So colleagues, without diverting, I want us to understand that the best protection is an alignment check. Early planning, honest documentation, careful editing, and willingness to seek feedback. Research quality is not credited or created by one final correction. No. It is built through discipline, decision from the beginning. I want to give an example. A student may collect data on 3 variables, but writes conclusion about 5 variables. This creates unsupported claims and weaks, because it will weaken the dissertation. I want to engage you. Which mistake can be detected by using an objective method analysis alignment table? They appear very simple questions, but when I bring it in an exam, you begin sweating. Say, but he said it. You will want to go to the platform, they will have closed it. You cannot see anything because the e-learning officers are here, they are listening. Colleagues, the key message here is alignment, ethics, evidence, and careful revision protects research quality. That's what you ought to understand. I want to thank you, especially the 112 persons who have been here up to the end. We started with 125. Those who have been patient, I want to thank you. But I also want to thank everybody, including those who do not want to be thanked, for the job well done. Because I must tell you that in most cases, we want to say, you see, you know. Colleagues, thank you for your active participation throughout this module. You now have a complete map for research idea to a proposal, from a proposal to field work and analysis, and from a dissertation to a publication and dissemination. Colleagues, this may appear something very small, but I appreciate you. The next step that you ought to have is disciplined practice. I'll mention this again. The next step that you must have is a disciplined practice. As you prepare for group presentation, colleagues, examination and future research, remain confident but intellectually humble. Ask clear questions, respect participants, use appropriate methods, report findings honestly, and write in a way that others can understand. Your research should not merely satisfy an academic requirement. It should contribute to professional practice, policy improvement, and the community well-being. Colleagues, I like asking questions. I don't know why, but I want to ask a question, practical one. What contribution do you want your research to make beyond graduation? Thank you so much. But I want to tell you to read widely, cite accurately, and produce research that improves society. I want to conclude by telling you that it is great to belong to this class. See you over the top. In my language, you say Alamanoi. Kidaredeke papa onikere. Thank you. Bye for now. Unless there is any question you want to ask, I won't tell you, colleagues, that you are supposed to do a test. It is individual test. I will set 60 questions, and you will answer them in 60 minutes. And it is objective, very easy to pass, very easy to fail. It is not the best way to assess you, but I want to ensure that the questions I ask is from what we have shared now. So, pass them. The class president should engage you and let you know that it's between 13th that we're supposed to have this. You may choose when we're supposed to have this between Monday and Friday, because they will need this to be marked and presented. But the system marks you. What you will see, it is your mark. Thank you so much. God bless you. See you over the top.
Doctor.
For you, doctor.
Hello, doctor.
I can hear you well.
Doctor, I have an inquiry for the group presentations. Are we starting next week on Saturday? Should groups prepare their presentations like the slides? Should they prepare so that we can start off with that next Saturday? You can guide further.
That's what I've just said, unless you have not been listening. I even made sure I put a slide on the recap. You have groups, and I put here and guided you what I expect of you. Groups must present. Next Saturday, we don't have lectures. We have group presentations. And therefore, you ought to prepare for the group presentations. But I think I don't want anybody to have what would they call it? To have an excuse that you brought a test on a Monday when the class is offered on Saturday. You are going to have a test between 10 and 11 on Saturday. Then from 11, groups will begin presenting. Madam President, are we clear?
Yes, we are clear, Doctor. Then, on the same, I'll bring the issue. We have new members. We have people that joined the class or people that joined the course after coursework, after our work had been submitted, and these people were not added because we had already submitted the work. As we are presenting, are they going to be considered after the presentation? And then groups have over 15 members plus. Or are all the 15 members supposed to present, doctor, or we can have few members from the group to present? Thank you.
You're a very intelligent class president. I think I love everything you have asked. First of all, the groups are 15. And I'll guide and support you on how best you can be able to make presentations. We have a test, which test is going to begin from 10 to 11. The test is individual. They are objective. I'll ask a question like, why is research considered scientific? And I will put A, B, C, D. Within 1 minute, you should be able to say, because it is verifiable. If verifiability is one of them. Now, if you are going to delay on one number, I'm not going to give you a second chance because you ought to have known there is a test, and the test is going to be between 10 and 11. You ought to have data. Call it data. If you cannot have enough data, then you're going to have issues. Go to a place where you are going to have very clear network. Don't have excuse. If you have to climb above the tree so that you can get the data, I mean the internet clear, do that. Whenever I make presentation, especially when I'm in my home, up-country home in Teso, to be specific, Bukedia, I've constructed a part of my house where I go and sit up there and I make presentations up because the network there is poor. So colleagues, make sure you have reliable internet, you have data which is consistent, that is not going to disappoint you, and you should be able to answer with a lot of honesty. There are people who like going to consult. Some of these answers cannot be gotten in ChatGPT. You may not get them. You should have been in class to be able to answer these questions. I'll repeat this. Therefore, colleagues, you need to know that what we have had as a recap is the possible area where I'm going to send the 60 questions from. Let's go to group presentations. But before we go to group presentations, do not continue calling me at that time. Call the online officers. There are many of them. Call them and seek for guidance. And normally, because there are 60 questions, I normally tell the online officers to give extra minutes, like 10, for submission. But the moment you submit, it may not allow you to resubmit. You submit once, and it will not be able to allow you to submit again. So be careful. The moment you touch this button, submit, it has already marked you. It will give you the mark. What you see is what you have scored. Colleagues, engage that day the online officers, not me, because I will be preparing for my marking guide for the presentations that you are going to make. Presentations, the marking guide. 1, you must produce what we call a PPT, PowerPoint presentation. The PowerPoint presentation should have the names of all the people who are supposed to be in that group. There are 15 groups. If group 1 has got, say, 20 persons, make sure the presenter, who should be your best, don't bring mediocres to present for you. You will fail. What the group presenter scores is what every other person scores in the group. Don't bring mediocres. Don't. You ask the question, must everybody present? No. You are best to present. Best. If you think you have the best 4, alternate and make presentations. But the best of the best in your group should be the one to present, not mediocres. Colleagues, get this right. Therefore, after the best has presented, say, I'm going to give you that day, you are going to have how many groups? group presentations, each group should take 10 minutes presenting. 5 minutes of engagement, meaning every group is going to take 15 minutes. Meaning, because we shall have a test from 10 to 11, we are going to have the presentation between 11 and 12:30. But you also need to be honest to yourselves. If you don't have anything by 1 o'clock, why don't we push it up to 1? But that is for you to decide. But let's push it to 12:30. I'm in the class finalizing, then I'll call you back. Now, Charles, I'll come back to you. Now, what I wanted to say here is, I was giving the presentation guidelines, and maybe my marking guide anyway. A presenter presents 10 minutes of presentation. You can choose your best to make the presentation 6x6 matrix. Don't bring me a Word document, I mark everything. There are people who cut and paste the Word document on slides. That is not for me, and I will not entertain that. You will lose marks. 6x6 matrix means 6 words across. That is vertical. That's horizontal. Then 6 words or bullets across. That is not that vertically, horizontally. Across is the horizontal, vertically, that kind of thing. So 6 words, 6 bullets. That's what I want. Make sure you make presentation with examples. You should have sources in whatever you are discussing about. And most importantly, try to have the 4 T's in your presentation and the 7 C's in your presentation. You don't have that, you are losing marks. Colleagues, later on, after the 10 minutes, keep time, the 5 minutes will be 5 minutes of engagement. Other groups will ask you questions. If they don't have questions to ask you, then you are lucky. But you are not also lucky because you have not asked other people to reinforce what you will have discussed. So you can tell another person to reinforce or give examples for the better kind of presentations. And if your group members have not been presenting, recapping, don't choose them to present for you because they will mess you up. The marks for presentation is 15. Total 15. I will mark the one document, I will mark the PPT, I will mark the presentation, I will mark the participation. Can all the people in the group present? No. Who presents? Your best. Can all the people contribute? No. Who contributes? Those with the knowledge in that area. Can everybody be a good presenter? No. Who does? Those who have been practical in class and who know about the 4 T's and the 7 C's. The 4 T's is tell them. That's the first T. The second T is tell them what you have to tell them. The third T, test them. The fourth T, tell them what you told them. I hope you get this. Charles, go for it.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity given me to speak out. First, I must appreciate you for this research class. I have learned so much, and I think I can beat my chest now to say I can participate in any research within an organization. And secondly, you talked about selecting a date between Monday to Friday for the tests. I 10, which I think is ideal for us on the side because I 10 on our side is 7 a.m. But I heard you talking about presentation after the text, and that is what drew my attention because right after the text, I mean, we in Liberia, we should start finding our ways to go to our various job sites. And I mean, if we have the presentation right after the test, it will actually affect us greatly. Yeah.
That is for you to decide. You people can decide when you want to do the presentations. But let's have the test between 10 and 11 on Saturday. The reason why I'm doing this is that some people travel on Fridays to go back to their places of work or going home, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to fit within the timetable because the academic registrar has given me an announcement that the test should be between a Monday to a Friday, which is not favorable for many of you, not even me, because I think I told you I'm a policeman. I have to be on duty. And sometimes the kind of business I do, I have meetings and presenting reports here and there. So I don't want to deceive that I can be able to administer tests and be able to answer questions during the weekdays. Because you will call doctor, connect me. On a Monday, I'm in a meeting. IGP wants a report. I don't think whether I will be able to do that. Even in Utamu, I work. And sometimes we're supposed to be there to do a number of, other tasks. So to me, a test should be on Saturday. Madam President, I don't know what you are thinking.
Doctor, Saturday is very okay because weekly days are tricky.
Okay. So we agree post that because I can realize now we're only 103 now remaining. Inform them and post this after this. So about the discussions, I don't know, Charles, I don't know how you'll be able to fit in this. If you are a group presenter, then it might be tricky because I wanted some group to start. I don't know.
No, for Saturday, it's 100% okay with me and everybody that resides in Liberia, in West Africa as a whole. But from Monday to Friday is where we had a problem. But since Saturday is the day, that's fine. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I've ruled that out. Weekdays are tricky, even for me. Okay, Madam President, there are questions you asked. Did I answer you?
Yes, doctor, you did.
Okay, thank you so much. Allow me have a cup of tea and be able to see at least a patient or two. My pockets are dry. I need some money. Thank you. See you over the top. In my language, you say Alamanoi.
You to Dr. Alamanoi.
Yeah, bon.